It's here. Simeone.
Hey lads,
Simmer.
Frank's fault.
Who's got the keys to
get Frank out. Get Frank out. No,
It's crazy. Actually, you know what? I'm reading from Tudor. He says Arsenal are probably the best team in the world right now. What?
Did you not watch him against Wolves?
what is it with all these Arsenal glazing all our managers? Honestly, but you know what? Today we saw it was an absolute shit show from start to finish. If being honest, I know going into this game, we're hoping, put a bit of passion, a bit of intensity, add all those things, and that can kind of make the difference. But the reality is, that's kind of like the lowest bar you need. That's like the minimum you need to get anything out of a game like this. And I did think we put in a few strong challenges. We tried to be intense. We tried to press them when we can. The passion was there for large parts, but it just wasn't enough. It wasn't enough at the end of the day. Arsenal were popping it around us like we weren't even there. We were chasing shadows. I think I guess the only difference between this game and the one at the Emirates was, I felt like at the Emirates, we just like stood off them and we just allowed them to play. I think on this game, we didn't allow them to play, but they just played anyway. You know what I mean? They were just popping it around us. They were exploiting us. They were creating chances at will. We just couldn't stop them. And I think, especially in that second half, the last half an hour, they made the changes. Some tired players went off. We just weren't able to do the same, really, at key moments, especially the key areas where it's going to really hurt you, isn't it? Midfield, a wing back. We just weren't able to make those changes, were we? And Gallagher was running on empty, Saar, Basuma, and the game was taken away from us. That last 20 minutes was procession. It was it's so easy for Arsenal. We just ran out of gas, I felt, in those last 20 minutes. But even in the first half, I'm being honest, as much as we were given it, we could have been 3 or 4 down. We equalised against run of play, in a moment, but it was easy for Arsenal. The defending for all of the goals was a shambolic, all over the place, disorganised. If Tudor needed to know how big of a job he's got, this was a perfect example. Because he's got a massive job on his hands with the injuries we got, the lack of quality available at the moment in the front line. Also, I want to say, I didn't like the lineup, to be honest. Didn't like the lineup from Tudor. I think, for me, having Spence and Gray at wing back, if you're going to play the wing back system, you have to have Sousa there, or you maybe even do start with Tell, because I thought we looked a bit better with Tell there, like a bit like what Diallo does for Man United when he was playing that position. Because for me, if you've got Spence and Gray, you're basically saying you're not getting forward. We're not going to have any ambition to get forward out wide, because we were so narrow throughout the game with the 3-5-2. 3 centre mids, 2 kind of players up front in Mawani and Javi. So you're very, very narrow. You're not playing with 2 like kind of wide 10s. So all you're expecting Gray and Spence to provide all the width. And Gray isn't a marauding fullback, even at the best of times. Even when he does play fullback, he's not like a marauding one. He'll kind of be like decent in cell possession, whatever, but he's not going to get forward for you. And Spence can only do that if he's playing on the right, because every time he's playing on the left, he's got to get on the ball, he's got to check back in, he's got to get on his right foot. Every time he gets the ball, he puts his foot on it, and he either goes backwards or he cuts inside. He doesn't provide width. So if you're going to play with wing backs, which is your only way of providing width in this system, you have to use players who are going to actually spread width. Otherwise, there's going to be no width at all. And we saw that, like going forward, we had absolutely nothing. We were going, every time we were forced to go long, and with Solanke on the pitch, Mawani just couldn't really hold the ball up with any quality. Xavi, was buzzing around, but had no options pretty much. He was very, very isolated again. I didn't like the lineup, to be honest, guys. I didn't like the lineup, and I think it was kind of set the tone for the game.
Do you think then he changes it going into Fulham, or do you think he keeps it the same? And like, if he does keep it the same, how do you feel about that?
I don't think necessarily the formation's the problem. but it's the personnel in
No, I
that
mean the
formation.
personnel. Yeah, I wasn't talking about the formation. I'm talking about the personnel at the moment.
Yeah, he's got to change it. He can't play that same team.
Do you think
So obviously, hopefully, Solanke recovers from his bloody sore throat.
Yeah, I mean,
Gets
obviously
some steps
Solanke might
in.
come in, but I'm talking about you specifically spoke about the wing backs, and so I'm focusing on that. If he starts with Gray,
But do you think he could have started with Sousa today, considering how well Saka did play on that right-hand side?
Say that again. Sorry, is your microphone on? Sorry, apologies.
Yeah. Do you think that he could have started Sousa today, considering how well Saka did play in the end? Because it would have been hiding to nothing if he's up against this 18-year-old left back. That was probably his biggest problem.
Yeah, I hear that, but you got to be brave. You have to be brave, and I don't think it was a brave lineup. It was a lineup that was set up to try and contain Arsenal, which I understand in a way because there's only so much we can do to hurt this Arsenal team. But you know what? He's come in with big words about us, having to be brave. We're going to like what we see on Sunday. And I didn't think it was a very brave lineup. And I think Gray and Spence was the safe option. And I think it was the option that you're going to use if you're going to try and limit their quality out wide. But it led to us is we were so penned back. Saka was having joy anyway down that side. Obviously, the first goal comes from that, doesn't it? He bullies his way into the box and they get that opening goal. And it meant whenever we went forward, we had absolutely zero width and we weren't able to get anything out wide. So, look, maybe not Sousa, but you know what? It was only for like 20 minutes, but I thought we looked a bit better going forward when Tell was there. I thought Tell had a decent cameo.
Do you think that was down to Arsenal and their subs, though? More to do because obviously
Mascara came on, didn't he?
Yeah,
Timber went off.
We've won this more than anything else.
Yeah, you might be right, but you know what? United do that sometimes with Diallo, their wing back, when they had Amorim, and it worked all right. So I think if Tudor is going to get a tune out of us and he's going to keep us up and he's going to get us winning some games, he's going to have to be brave. And being brave means not playing safe options like Gray at wing back. If you're going to play a wing back, look, if it's full back, okay, maybe play Gray. That's fine. Yeah. You can't play Gray at wing back. And if you're going to have two wing backs asked to spread the width, you can't then have Gray on the right and Spence on the left because you're neutering both wings at that point. If you're at that point, you maybe play Spence on the right and Gray on the left because at least there's going to be one wing where you've got a guy spreading the width and holding the line, and you can get out wide. I thought Spence did more in the 20 minutes he was on the right than he did the whole of the time he was on the left. You have to play him a wing back on the right. You can't play him. I think at full back you can maybe get away with playing him on the left because he's got a winger ahead of him, right? So you can just get the ball, get it to the winger quickly, and all of a sudden you've got a player there. But if you're going to play wing backs and the very narrow formation, you can't play Spence on the left because he's all of a sudden. He's your only option out wide, and he's always cutting inside or going backwards because he's on his wrong foot. So you can't have that. He has to change it, 100%. He has to change it. He can't go with those wing backs going forward.
What did you make of Gallagher's performance in the middle?
Uninspiring. I think he was probably the least combative of a lot of our midfielders, to be honest. I expected with him in that role, he was going to get a bit more license to get forward and get close to the front three. Make late runs in the box. So to be fair, I'm criticising him for not getting forward, but we struggled to get in their half. If we're being honest, we struggled to get near their box. So I don't think it was specifically a Gallagher problem, but Gallagher's supposed to come in, have so much fight and passion, and intensity and aggression, get stuck in. And I thought I saw more from Sarr and Basuma than I did from Gallagher today, if I'm being honest. So I didn't think there was much to his performance. I think it was dominated by Rice and Zubamendi. And Eze.
So would you start Basuma? Would you start Basuma Would you start Basuma over Gallagher then in the next game for Fulham? If you're saying you didn't see much from him, or would you think Basuma needs a whole bench?
Basuma was probably our best midfielder today, if I'm being honest. It's not saying much, but look, this is a kind of a raw reaction because I haven't seen the goals back or anything like that. I haven't gone and watched any of the highlights. This is based on what I saw watching the game in the stands. Basuma seemed to do more for me than Gallagher.
Wait to see it
but
tomorrow.
We need to keep playing Gallagher because he's the future. Basuma's going to be gone, and Gallagher's going to be the guy who's going to be with us from now on. So we need to get him acclimatized to the team. We need to get the best out of him, and we need to start seeing more of him. So I'm not necessarily saying if it's a choice between him and Basuma, I'm going to start Basuma from now on, but I think today Basuma was better for me.
So, Sim, are we going to survive?
On today's evidence, On today's evidence, we got a hell of a job, man. You know, West Ham gained another point on us this weekend. Forest, I haven't watched the game, but I heard they were very unlucky today.
They were.
Apparently
Liverpool.
Bad, yeah.
Leeds are picking up points. They got a good point away at Villa. So we are the only team in the Premier League in 2026 who have not won a game.
Mm-hmm.
We are struggling to get players fit. We're on our knees at the moment, running on empty when it comes to injuries. As much as firing Frank was necessary, it doesn't guarantee anything. It doesn't guarantee anything, firing him. And I think we did it too late, to be honest. And it's left us in this situation what we are in at the moment. That we're now, look, we are absolutely banging that fight. And there's no guarantees. I'm looking at the fixtures we got left, and I'm hoping and praying that there's enough points there to keep us in the division. But playing like we did today, nothing improved today, if I'm being honest. I think we were very open. I think today we did at times throw caution to the wind, and we were sliced open by a very good Arsenal team who completely exploited us. I think we were brave, but we didn't have the players to be brave today on the pitch. We were completely outdone by a much better Arsenal team who sliced us open. Every time they got the ball and went forward, they looked like they were going to score. And they pretty much kept us quiet. But I think there was intent today, but there was a massive lack of quality. Like every time we tried to play our football, we were just outdone by them. They were physically better than us. They were smarter than us. But I think if we can just get a few more attackers on the pitch, hopefully Solanke comes back into the team. You've got Tel. I want to see more of Tel on the pitch. Get players around Javi and maybe play a bit more of a 3-4-3 rather than a 3-5-2. That you got to hope, but I can't really sit here and say I saw any evidence today.
So basically, the players get much better. The players are the problem, not the manager.
I think in the short term, the lack of numbers and the lack of quality available is definitely the main problem. But Frank had to go because Frank was also a massive problem with how he had us set up and his intent as a manager. And when we didn't have injuries, we were also as bad as what we've seen. Yeah. But right now, in the short term, we are on our knees at the moment, no doubt about it. And we are in big trouble until some of the injuries clear up. A bit similar to last season in that sense. Until the injuries clear up, it's very, very tough. I don't think in Frank's last games, it was necessarily. I was going in on him, but I don't think he was the main problem in his last few weeks of his management, because we were just the main problem was the injuries. But he was a problem because we saw earlier in the season what we were offering even without the injuries, and football was still very, very poor. So in terms of today, we were just absolutely outclassed by the better team. I don't think people obviously point to buzzwords, lack of passion, lack of fight, all these kind of things. I think we tried. I just think it's not enough.
Sim, I can tell you what the problem is. We only win when me and you are in the studio together, mate.
That's it, Marlon. That's it. I'm not going to any more games.
Yeah.
Going to put Marlon
got to be there together.
It's like that, yeah? Say nothing.
Hey, we were Palace, remember? And I think last year, I can't remember who we beat last year. Like, we were on a crap run. Me and Sim came in, we won.
Just a
quick one on today. I also have to say, on these games, going into these games, I think as much as we were excited about a new manager and whatever, when we're knowing how good Arsenal are, you do need that little bit of luck, right, to go for you. And we obviously got out the first goal, but there was those things that just went against us. That second goal, that is a goal. That was a robbery. I understand talking about refereeing decisions after the absolute disaster that we put in is tough, but as I say, in these games you need luck and you need those things to go for you, and that was a goal, man. We had 2-2. You never know what can happen. We probably still lose, but still getting the equaliser. Not only did we not get the equaliser, correct me if I'm wrong, they scored the third probably not long after that, didn't they?
Yeah. But
so all of a sudden it goes from 2-2 to 3-1 and then it's game over.
It's not that was the biggest difference. It's the Xavi and Gyökeres. Xavi shot, on another day, he hits it great, he catches it sweet, Raya saves it. Gyökeres then gets the ball on the other end, literally 2 minutes or 3 minutes later, and puts it in the back of the net. And there was the difference. Straight away.
You need your bit of luck. And then also at 3-1, I think 5 minutes to go, not saying we gained any rid of momentum, but we just switched Spence over to the right, didn't we?
Yeah.
We brought in Tell. Then we have that chance. I don't know what happened. I think Solanke nearly prods it home. Raya clears it off the line. If we make it 3-2 at that point, and all of a sudden Arsenal get a bit shaky, we get a bit of momentum in us, could we have put a late rally in? That doesn't go in, and then Arsenal go on and get the fourth, and it's a pretty easy ending in the end. So in these games, you need that little bit of luck. It didn't go for us, unfortunately, and it is what it is. But no getting away from the performance. Well beaten by a much superior Arsenal team. And Tudor has, I think today, he'll be looking at our game thinking, yeah, I've got a big job, man, because these players, it's going to be very, very tough for us, because looking at those games coming up, if we're playing anywhere near like we did today, we've got a hell of a job to stay in this league.
Sim, thanks, mate.
Big up.
Everyone tuning tomorrow.
You guys. Big up to you.
Sim and Ben.
Yeah.
Big up, Sim.
Big up, Bomb.
Big up.
Yeah, make sure.